Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's guest, but before we do, we want to give a shout out to all of our sponsors. Now, don't hit that fast forward button. These are all companies that I used as an athletic director or I've got a direct connection to, and I highly recommend them to you. So take the next 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our segment, and then go visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to SnapRaise for their support of the podcast. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and ended up with little, if any, return on investment? Stop right here. Go to snapraise.com. Hands down, the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school. Tremendous success. It works. Go to snapraise.com. Check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you found it. Go to snapraise.com. We'd also like to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their interactive touchscreen. That's right, touchscreen video consoles. It's also a great way to share your school's unique history and your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Mention the podcast. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I wanted a platform that was going to work for all of our teams, and Huddle came through like a champ. Our coaches loved it, student athletes loved it, even our parents loved all the tools that Huddle provided that let our kids experience sports at the highest level. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Social media is where it's at, and the team at Gipper is going to show you how to create world-class content in seconds to celebrate your athletes and promote your teams. Gipper is used and trusted by over 4,000 high school and college programs across the country. It's professional graphic design made easy. Go to Gipper.com to get started. We also want to thank Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform that you will use every single day. Things like uploading schedules, rosters, communicating with your coaches, your students, your parents, athletic clearance and eligibility. Who doesn't do that every day? Home Campus is going to do all of these tasks quicker. It's going to do it better, and it's going to give you a lot more time back in your schedule. To get started, all you have to do is go to homecampus.com. That's it, homecampus.com. We'd also like to thank Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Their products not only generate income for your athletic department, but they also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. That's sidelineinteractive.com. Check them out today. We'd like to thank Hometown Ticketing for their support. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more. We want to thank the Ohio University Online Master of Science in Athletic Administration for their support. This affordable 20-month online master's program focuses exclusively on interscholastic athletic administration. Now, when you finish, you're not only going to have your master's degree, you're going to have 11 NIAAA leadership training courses that can go toward your RAA or your CAA. You're also going to be part of a nationwide network with connections in athletics across the country. To get started, just go to ohio.edu/info/MAA. And we want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your coaches, your parents, or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Athletic directors already get feedback, but it's typically from the complainers, the ones that want to gripe about everything. And that's only a small percentage of your stakeholders. Athletic Surveys is going to connect you to that group, but they're also going to connect you to the 98% that supports your program. And that's a tremendously valuable tool to have especially when you're talking to a frustrated parent or your principal or your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to help you take your athletic program from good to great. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We are staying right here in Florida today, and our guest is Kelsey Perdomo. Now, Kelsey is an aspiring sports management leader. She and I connected a while back at the National Junior College Indoor Track and Field Championships. They were being hosted at the Gainesville, Alachua County Center. And Kelsey was there as part of the University of Florida's sport management program. Very, very sharp individual. And as we do frequently, I thought she'd be a great guest in our undergrad program. So, Kelsey Perdomo, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be on.
Well, we're excited to have you. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So, give us that bio, where you were born, where you grew up, really focus on those, say, junior high and high school years. We're going to talk more about your University of Florida experience later, but what's the Kelsey Perdomo origin story?
Perfect. So I grew up in Miami, Florida, and my dad was kind of the one that introduced me to sports. So we started off in rec ball and cross country in kindergarten and second grade. And we would go hitting together, fielding practices, travel ball, rec practices all together. And eventually I decided I wanted to be a pitcher when I got more into it, which my dad was excited for. So I actually met my pitching coach, Kelly Sacco, who just helped me flourish in that field. And at the same time, I was running, but not that competitively yet, just to have something for the off season. So I played softball from the ages from 8 to 15. And freshman year of high school, I went to Our Lady of Lourdes Academy in Miami, Florida. And I realized maybe I like running a little bit more than I do across softball. So I quit softball freshman year after the season. My dad was devastated, but I was not. I was really excited to take off in my cross country career. So sophomore year, I got better and better, made the varsity team. Each race, I was getting a better PR. And it was really just like an amazing feeling just to be able to do something on my own and with a team and have two different personal achievements. And going into my junior year, I got injured right before the start of the season. So I kind of spent 9 months like in and out of practices and the physical training and trying to just heal myself for the next season. But it didn't really work. So during that time, I was like, what do I do? What do I do? I have to find something to make me busy because I've played sports my whole life and now I'm just not doing anything. So this is when I kind of started volunteering more. I started volunteering at different places and it fulfilled the thing I was missing when I couldn't play sports. So after that, I tried to run my senior year. I ran about two races and then just got injured again. And I still graduated with a 4 year varsity in cross country. And I played softball again my senior year for fun and because it didn't injure me. And I graduated the 2 year varsity in softball. So that's my high school career. And I just decided to go to the University of Florida.
Um, I think it's interesting, and you talked about it when you made that transition from softball, into running. I think you said your dad was devastated.
Yeah.
Um, After the initial devastation, I'm going to guess he did jump on board and was supportive of your running career.
Yes, my mom and my dad would run around the 5Ks with me. They would meet me. I don't even know how it was possible. They would meet me at five different spots. My whole family would come. My grandma thought it was a pain to watch because she's like, "There's no way this can be a sport." Watching my my granddaughter just running for a 5K. That's how is that possible? It was really fun though.
Right. And I know cross country and distance runners and track, they sometimes use that saying, my sport is your sport's punishment, going
Yeah.
out and running. Now, Our Lady of Lourdes, a very successful athletic program across the board. What was that like, coming in? You mentioned that, you finally earned a spot on the varsity. What sort of, and these are my words, but I'm hoping they apply. The sense of achievement, was that something you were just aware of when that happened?
Yeah, it was because it was a really big team, like a really big cross country team, probably the biggest team in the school. So the varsity team was about 15 to 20 runners, and then the rest of the team was JV, which was probably like 80 more runners. So I started not that great. But I just didn't want to be great, honestly. That's what I tell myself. And then it just clicked and I was like, "Oh, if I just practice harder, I could just do better every single time." And it was kind of like hard to make it up just because it's hard to run and it's hard to do better because you just have to like push yourself in the times that you don't want to be pushed. And my coach was amazing. Her name's Rebecca and Coach Hove. They were awesome. They helped me do better. They were uh, proud of each and every accomplishment I made, which just made it so much better. And the team was really supportive. So it was a great time.
Yeah, this is a question I usually ask, our athletic director guests, people that are, much further along in their career than you. But I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyway. Can you think of a moment, maybe it was during softball, or during your high school days, that at the time it really didn't seem like much, but now, as a aspiring, leader in athletics, you can look back at that moment and say, hey, that was a significant moment for me. Anything come to mind?
Um, Probably my state championship for cross country. Because although I didn't do that good in states, it's accomplishment in itself to be able to go to the state championship and run with all these great runners. Because at the time I was just like, oh, I'm just not as good as everyone else that's running, but I was still able to run and like do the best that I could for myself.
Yeah, just there's nothing like that state experience, and I'm sure it's similar in other states as well. But I've been fortunate to be at the Florida High School cross country championships for several years. So my daughter ran. My wife was a longtime high school coach, and then now we both work as officials every year at the meet. So it is a very, very unique experience. We're going to go and take our first break, but our guest today is Kelsey Perdomo. She's an aspiring sports and athletic leader currently at the University of Florida. She's coming back with more, but let's take that break. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Snap Raise for their support of the podcast. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and ended up with little, if any, return on investment? You need to stop right here. Go to snapraise.com. Hands down, the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with tremendous success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other platforms, but if you're looking for a fundraiser, you found it. Go to snapraise.com to get started. We'd also like to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and check out their interactive touch screen. That's right, touch screen video consoles. It's also a great way to share your school's unique history along with your proudest moments. The website's vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check them out today. We'd also like to thank Huddle for their support. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I wanted a platform that was going to support all of our teams, and Huddle came through like a champ. Our coaches, our student athletes, even our parents just loved the tools that Huddle provided that allowed our student athletes to experience sports at the highest level. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Once again, our guest today is Kelsey Perdomo. She's an undergraduate student in the University of Florida's Sport Management program. Kelsey, you kind of shared some broad brushstrokes of your high school experience, and you mentioned that you decided to attend college at the University of Florida. What was it about that school, and then in particular, the sport management program that ended up getting your attention?
Okay, so my dad actually went to the University of Florida, and well, we're all from Miami. His older sisters went, his brother went. So I was kind of like grew up in the Gator mentality, but my mom went to FSU and my dad went to FSU Law School. So it could have been either one and they would have been happy. But every single Saturday during the college football season, we would go to my house. All my dad's friends from college would come to my house. We'd have a gator head that my dad would put on the table. We'd rub the head before the game started. And we would love those games. My mom would make us snacks. All my dad's friends would bring their kids. It was just like such an experience. I go to school with some of the kids now. So in high school, I was like, oh, there's no place I'd rather go than here. But once I started applying, I was like, okay, maybe I have to open up my options. But I kind of wanted the same vibe as the University of Florida. So I applied to basically all the SEC schools. And then I was between FSU and UF, and I ended up choosing UF. I actually have a twin sister that goes to FSU. So it's kind of a house divided right now. So I made it into UF, and I actually made it into the business program, the general business administration program. In my first 2 years, I didn't really like it too much. Because it's just the general program. So you're just learning the general things and there's no specific thing you're learning yet. So I was like watching YouTube videos, I was talking to my family and I was doing research and I was like, how can I make this more interesting to me? But the University of Florida allows for a specialization in the business program. So you could pick, there's 80 different specializations, and the one I chose was sport management. And that was the best decision. I just decided, like, what's the one thing that my whole entire life has made me feel fulfilled? And I was like, it was between sports and history. And I was like, I think I would have more fun doing sports than history. Um, so I ended my sophomore year last year and I just decided to try sports management out. And it was, it's been great so far. I've had some amazing professors.
Let's go and talk about that. And again, obviously, sports management programs, I think at many colleges, there's the classroom work, but then there's also, the field work, and whether it's a formal internship or volunteering. We're going to talk about that, but share a little bit about the coursework that you've taken so far at the University of Florida.
So my first couple of years, it was general programs like marketing, management. I took business finance. But all those classes, they didn't really like strike my interest too much, except for marketing. I loved marketing. It was just so cool to see like how much it helps the actual business itself. But this year, the ones that like really like opened my mind to the new classes, like for instance, the intro to sport management class, it was it was just like it wasn't all brand new, but it was like a great learning process and a great like intro because you had to take that class in order to take all the other sport management classes. So then this semester I was really able to like delve into different sport management classes, and I chose two, which was just managing the sports management, just the general sports management, which is a management class, except everything you learn is related or intertwined with sports. So I didn't do as well as I did in my management class as I did in my sport management class. And I was like, maybe this was a good field for me to pick just because like the examples and the different things really helped my brain understand how the management process works rather than just throwing it at you with like a general example or something that didn't really pique my interest. So I have my final for that class actually tomorrow, and I'm excited. But then I took another class with Professor Brian Avery, which has been my favorite class that I've taken at UF, which is Sport Operations and Facility Management. He just he teaches in a way that like makes you want to learn and makes you want to share like your different ideas, and he never makes you feel like you're wrong. Like he wants everyone to say what they want to say, Um, has some cool projects. It was either renovate a sport facility or create a new sport, and we created a new sport, me and my team, and it was a really fun time in that class.
All right. Well, I have to ask, since you opened that door, what was the new sport that you and your team created?
Okay, so it was kind of an odd sport because we were like, oh, picking making a sport is gonna be so easy. It's gonna be so easy. And then we were like, okay, there's sports for everything now. They have like tennis, tennis softball, and they have like lacrosse, basketball. They have every single sport and combination hybrid sport that you could imagine. So we're like, maybe this won't be easy. So we kind of did like a hybrid sport. It's gonna sound really strange, but just hear me out. It was a combination between CrossFit and like a chess game. So basically the players they would be playing chess like on the field, but the way to like proceed or like eat the other player, you had to beat them in one of the CrossFit things, whether it's weightlifting or like jump roping, just like a different I probably have like a 5 page, 6 page business outline about it, but it'd be a lot of detail to go into right now.
Well, I mean, it sounds interesting. You're right, but it's also probably more than what we can go into in this episode. But who knows? Maybe we're going to be watching this in a few years on ESPN or who knows, even in the Olympics. Very cool stuff. Um, One more question about the course content. Now, you're not somebody that came to, let's say, sports with no background. Obviously, you grew up playing games and softball and a state caliber athlete in high school. What was something about the curriculum, maybe a subject or two, that surprised you? Oh, this is part of sport management that you weren't expecting.
Um, Probably just like how it's kind of like a repetition of everything else that I've learned, but they have a really big stress on being prepared and being prepared for everything, which they didn't really stress in my other class too much. But for like all my classes are like make a backup plan of the backup plan and then a backup plan for this backup plan. And I was just like, I didn't know that you needed this many backup plans to run something. Like for instance, they talk about how the Orange Bowl. So they have like 10 million backup plans for the Orange Bowl just because one time for the halftime show, someone was walking out before they had like a longer time period than they were supposed to have on the fields. And then there's just a guy, the whole entire float for the halftime show comes out while they're still playing the actual sport game itself. So they had to pull everyone back in. The guy had headphones and he was dancing on top of the float, and everyone's like, go back in, go back in. And he's like, he has no idea that the whole entire game is going on. So it's just like cool things like that. So then the later years they've had to prepare like just in case they come out early, like you have to have this in place, or in case like a team doesn't want to stay at this hotel, you have to have three backup hotels, like also ordered like 3 years in advance. There's just much preparation that I didn't realize was involved in all these things.
Yeah, even at the high school level, if it doesn't have to be the Orange Bowl. There's a lot that
Yeah.
goes into putting on an event. We're going to go and take another break, but we're coming back and hear about some of Kelsey's field work experiences in the sport management program at the University of Florida. Once again, Kelsey Perdomo is our guest. Let's take that break, but we're coming back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Gipper for their support of the podcast. Go to Gipper.com. Their team is going to show you how to create world-class marketing content to promote your teams on social media. Gipper's used and trusted by over 4,000 high school and college teams across the country. It's professional graphic design made easy. Go to Gipper.com to get started. Mention the podcast, you'll get a nice discount. That's Gipper.com. We also want to thank Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day for things like uploading schedules and rosters, student athlete eligibility and clearance. Who doesn't do that every day? Communicating with your coaches, you name it, Home Campus is going to do it better. It's going to do it faster, and it's going to give you a lot more time back in your schedule. To get started, all you need to do is go to homecampus.com. That's homecampus.com. We want to say thank you to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Of course, we use it for home games, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. Their products are tremendously versatile. Their customer service is just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Once again, our guest is Kelsey Perdomo. She's an undergraduate student in the University of Florida's Sport Management program. She is an aspiring leader in the world of athletics and sports. Um, Kelsey, you just kind of shared your classroom experience at the University of Florida. Let's talk about some of your field work. Now, you and I met, as I mentioned, at the National Junior College Track and Field Indoor Championships, and you and a number of your classmates were there. Share a little bit maybe about that experience and some of the other sport management experiences that you have had so far at University of Florida.
Okay, so I'll start with what I did going into college, which was the right before that, I worked at Press On Summer Running Club, which is basically just a running club, which I was a part of in high school. And I was like, why not give back and just be a coach this summer? So basically, I tailored and like coordinated schedule and like scheduled workouts for like middle school through high school with a 6-week program, and we focused on like conditioning them and like just ensuring their safety, kind of like a summer camp, but more just 2 hours a day, just like a coaching would happen. And then this past semester, my fall semester, I was able to work with Florida Victorious, which is like UFNIL Collective, which is name, image, and likeness. And that was that was a really cool experience. I would go to the tailgates and I would sit there and I would network. They would have these tailgates and I would have to make sure that people could come in, check them in, try to get new donors and sponsors, which was really a great connection process. And that's like one thing I would love to stress is that to try to make connections because you don't know how they'll help you out later on. That was like my number one thing that I told myself I was going to do this year, and to just reach out and get out of my comfort zone because I would consider myself a shy person. So I was just meeting a lot of cool athletes, cool people in the business field, people in the sport management field, people that worked at UF. It was a really cool experience. And then this semester, I was able to dive like deeper into like what I'm more passionate about, and it's like helping like the youth groups and like underprivileged youth. So I've had the opportunity to work with Aces in Motion, which is a sports-based after-school youth development program. And it uses a sport, which is tennis, to like develop the child's like their health, like academic, emotional developments. And it's just like teaching a sport and helping them grow through the sport like I did, like my friends did, which they didn't have like the accessibility to do before. It's really cool.
No, and again, I think I shared with you when we connected at the track meet that one of the most important things that any aspiring athletic person or even a veteran can do is build their network and make those connections. So it was so cool to hear that you were already doing that. All right. I want you to share your experience with a certain podcast host at the Alachua County Convention Center. How did that all play out? And, what are your thoughts now looking back on that experience?
Perfect. So there's a sport management club at UF, which I actually haven't been able to attend barely any of the meetings because my Aces in Motion volunteering also runs in with the same time as the sport management club meetings. So I choose the Aces in Motion. But they have a group me and they send out different texts and they're like, oh, we have all these different things that if you want to volunteer for, just sign up. So I was like, oh, I'm just gonna sign up since I can't attend the club events. I'm just gonna sign up and see what it's about. Going into it, I had no idea what I was doing. I had never been to the facility, and I walk in and it was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, there's just a bunch of different colleges here, and it's a whole entire track and fields meet. And it was the national championship, if I'm correct, right? Which is
Hmm.
even cooler. I did the ASUN and there was the national junior, I think.
Right.
And um I was I was like, "Oh, what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go?" And they're like, "Oh, you're doing pole vaulting, which is where I ran into you." And I was like, "Thank God that I'm not sitting here and just doing this all alone." Because you taught me a lot in the maybe it was like 2, 3 hours that we were talking, sitting like lifting up the pole. Um, to give all the viewers a picture of what we were doing is I was picking up the pole, putting it onto the pole vault thing, and then it would get knocked down, and the same thing would happen. But luckily, I was learning the whole entire time. I was seeing like behind the scenes operations, which helps my class, the sport operation facility management, my favorite class, like come into life of like the backgrounds and how much like work goes into it.
Now, again, for our listeners, you did a great job, and your classmates. They were all just fantastic workers. But the title of your position there, working the pole vault, is a very technical term. Do you remember what your job was?
Mm.
You were one of the bartenders.
Uh, yeah, I was. I
Yeah,
was a
putting
bartender.
the crossbar back up. And again, it sounds easy. It might even look easy if you're at a track meet, but um, at the even at the national level, there's a standard. If an athlete knocks the bar off, you have to get ready for the next vaulter. And we have kind of a standard. We said we want to have the standard set, the bar back up in 30 seconds or less. And you and your crew mates just did a wonderful job. Sometimes we have certified officials that can't meet that standard. But um, now that was back earlier this year. Have there been any other field experiences that you could share with our listeners?
Um, well, not in particular fields. I've just been focusing on Aces in Motion right now, but I did secure an internship with the Special Olympics 3 weeks ago now. I emailed them probably in the beginning of February, and I heard back from them around the beginning of April. Had my interview, killed it. They're great people, like great people. Every single person I interviewed with was genuinely passionate about the work they were doing, and it wasn't a hard conversation to have or a hard interview. Sometimes you go into interviews and you're like so stressed, like pulling your hair out. I went in and they were smiling. They wanted to learn about me and it was really cool people and I'm excited. I'll be working with the youth development program for their developmental sports and unified championship schools where they're like dedicated to empowering the young athletes from like 2 years old to high school, like just fostering inclusion. And so they introduce like children to like motor activity trainings, just different sports, like from people with very low functioning disabilities to high functioning disabilities. And they're just telling me all about it and how they're, I need to fact check myself, but there's actually an NFL athlete who was in the Special Olympics when he was younger. I need to but it was a really cool, really cool internship, and I can't wait to start. That'll be down in Miami.
Oh yeah, no, that sounds very exciting. Kelsey, we're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners, maybe somebody who's looking to hire, wanted to get in touch with you or just add you to their network, I know you're on LinkedIn, but what's the best way that somebody can reach out and get a hold of you?
Probably through LinkedIn or email would or phone number. I don't I think everything works. I'm a pretty quick reply. My slowest reply would probably be email just because I have a bunch of spam. I feel like I don't know how this happens, but I have a ton of spam that always somehow like jumps ahead of important emails.
Hey, you're not alone. I get that too. Well, uh, so again, if you want to connect with Kelsey, find out more about, her background, maybe even, bring her on board in your organization. Check her out on LinkedIn. That's Kelsey Perdomo. Um, Kelsey, this has been really cool reconnecting with you. We got a chance to meet earlier, but we're not done yet. We always wrap things up with the athletic director's toolbox. Now, you're not an athletic director, but you've been around some pretty high powered programs, and I think you know your way around the world of athletics. We're going to take our final break, hear from a couple sponsors, and when we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic leader on their very first job. But I'm only going to let you put three things in their toolbox. So let's take that final break. And when we return, we're going to see what Kelsey Perdomo puts into her new athletic director toolbox. We want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing for their support of the podcast. Hometown is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more, but go to hometownticketing.com. See all the things that they can do for you. It's digital ticketing that offers more. We'd also like to thank Ohio University's online Masters of Science in Athletic Administration. This affordable 20-month online master's program focuses exclusively on interscholastic athletic administration. And when you finish, you're not only going to have your master's degree, you'll have completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses that can go toward your RAA or CAA credential. You're also going to be part of a nationwide graduate network with contacts and connections all across the country. To get started, just go to ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Masters in Athletic Administration. And we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic Surveys is an easy way for you to connect with all of your stakeholders. Athletic directors already get feedback, but usually it's only from the complainers, the people that want to gripe about things. And that's only a small percentage. Athletic Surveys is going to connect you to the 98% that supports your program. And that's tremendously valuable information to have, especially when you're talking to a frustrated parent, or maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. Athleticsurveys.com. Check them out today. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with Kelsey Perdomo. She is an aspiring leader in the world of sport management and athletics, currently an undergraduate student at the University of Florida, still has a tremendous background in athletics. And right now, I'm going to challenge her to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job. But I'm only going to let her put three things in the toolbox. So, Kelsey, what three items are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
The first thing I would put into the toolbox would be building community. I think it's so important to build a community, whether you're a huge business owner or just a small business. Reach out to your neighbors, your friends, other businesses. Try to find partners and just like genuine people you could build actual relationships rather than just like business to business transactions. Just reach out to the community because there's always going to be someone that wants to help out, whether it's volunteering or interning or just trying to find a job. I think that's one of the most important things. And the second thing I would put in is to prioritize mentorships because mentorships have got me a long way. My pitching coach, she's gone from holding the cords for the Miami Heat to now having her own segment in the Miami Marlins Bally Sports Florida. Mentors like that have helped me just like grow, and w watching them grow has also made me grow. And I feel like don't ever think just because you're the top of your branch or the top of your business that you don't need a mentor. I think you could always find a mentor. Sometimes your mentor might even be less experienced than you. Um, and then the third would to be embrace diversity and inclusion. Um, the places that I have had the most physical and spiritual growth working at have been the ones that have in embraced diversity, like Aces in Motion. Alachua County is actually the most segregated school district in the state of Florida. And just making an organization where these children can feel like needed and special is just so important. And in any business, it's important to make everyone feel included. So that would be my third thing to put in the toolbox.
Wow, great suggestions. And again, I love how you included the building your network that yours truly suggested to you. But the
Yeah.
others are great too. I love it. One more time, Kelsey, if one of our listeners wants to reach out, maybe a potential future employer, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Through LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn is Kelsey Perdomo, Kelsey Perdomo. It'll be
Okay.
the first thing in
Oh,
your
I'm sorry.
search.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's okay. It'll be your first thing in the search bar.
There you go. Absolutely. Yeah. Um, well, thanks again for taking some time out of your busy schedule, preparing for final exams, et cetera, to share with our listeners all the best moving forward. And let's get you back on, maybe next year we'll do an update of all things Kelsey Perdomo.
Perfect. That sounds amazing.
For our listeners, you are amazing too. And just a reminder, we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening, and we do this just about every day with interviews and best practices. So hopefully we'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast. Have a great day.